Everything you need to know in order to succeed in marriage, from practical advice to current events. This is the XO Podcast.
Do you play video games on your phone or on a console?
On the phone, yeah,
yes,
definitely.
on the phone a lot.
Clash of Clans, yep, that does it.
We have a team.
Y'all play together?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So it's something y'all enjoy doing together?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So video games, positive, negative influence on your marriage?
Oh, no, I think it's actually very positive. It gives him his little inlet or outlet, to be able to do, and it builds relationships with our kiddos. So it's definitely not one of those things that hinders at all.
No, I don't play any video games.
No video games.
Not on the phone either?
I mean, I've been playing Minesweeper a little bit. Yeah.
We play together. We usually play separately because we have different tennis styles. So whatever the mood hits.
We tennis. Yeah. And some people, my husband gets a little competitive and hits the ball, imaginary ball, a little hard and almost tear down
and
the ceiling
she's just right here. I'm like, how are you doing that? I'm all over the living room.
This is the XO Podcast. It is a podcast dedicated to helping you thrive in life and love and have the marriage of your dreams. And if you're single out there, some people are single. My friend Jeremy Sneed with us on the podcast today is single. You may be single out there. This is a podcast also to help you prepare for relationships and that moment when you say, I do. And so welcome, everybody. We have a great podcast for you today. We are talking about video games.
Hey.
And we're going to have some fun talking about video games. Timm Ross is with us today. Hello,
hey.
Timm.
Glad to be back.
We love having Timm.
We love having Timm. Timm Ross is the senior pastor of Embassy City Church in Irving, Texas. Him and his wife, Juliet, are celebrating 19 years of marriage today.
Nice.
Cue the confetti.
Hey.
It's good.
I love it.
And then my good friend Jeremy Sneed is on the podcast as well. Jeremy Sneed, I'm going to read your bio here because it's official.
Good. All right.
Is a film director and in 2004 founded Media Juice Studios. An award-winning film and television production studio based in Dallas, Texas. Jeremy has directed many commercials, video game trailers, short films, and music videos for consumer products and game companies like Hasbro, Activision, Capcom, and many more.
Wow, I sound fancy.
You sound official.
You're a busy guy.
You've never read it before, have you? I haven't, no.
So, and a little bit of trivia for Jeremy. He's a good friend of mine. We met in Amarillo years ago, and we're good friends.
Yeah.
And I've watched him from afar for many years build the company Media Juice Studios. And when we're talking today about games and gaming and relationships, I thought this was a great opportunity to incorporate Jeremy's world into what we're talking about related to marriage. And we're going to kind of unpack that for everyone today. So it's going to be really good. In Facebook, you're joining us as well. So if you have questions, make sure you get those in there. We'll be answering questions for games, for relationship advice, whatever it is. We've got a whole bunch of people here that have some information that I know can help you as well. And this is brought to you by Marriage Today. We love coming to you every week. Marriage Today does so many things, but what we want to do every single day is help improve relationships and marriages. We know they're out there. They're sometimes struggling. Maybe you have a good relationship, you want to get better, but sometimes you're in a ditch and you want to get out of that ditch. And sometimes we want to make sure that we have what we can do here to make sure your relationship gets better every single day. So video games, let's start there.
Yes, let's.
There is a culture now that we have where video games are just, I grew up playing them. And so as the generation that's coming up right now is more submerged into video games, is it ever a point where this video game culture goes away and it's always going to be around, right?
Yeah, I don't think, there was a lot of talk in 1983, which was sort of the quote-unquote crash of the video game industry. There was talk of like, oh, that was just a fad, and everybody kind of had an Atari, and now it's just, that's going to go away. And of course it didn't. Nintendo came back and resurrected it, and the rest is history kind of thing. The industry itself is always going to kind of ebb and flow, just like movies and television and all industries do. But I don't think gaming, or, I guess the industry-specific term would be interactive entertainment, now that we have VR and AR, that's never going away. It's going to evolve. It's going to grow. In 10 years from now, it's going to be pretty unimaginable, like what exists. Probably closer to, the holodeck and Star Trek or something like that. Maybe not that far, but it's only going to evolve and grow, as technology evolves, I think.
Let's talk about VR. I want to get into that world of VR. And I just watched Ready Player One, the movie.
Yeah.
I love the book, the movie, and if nobody's seen the movie, it's great. Steven Spielberg, you can't go wrong there. But,
and my friend Ernie Klein, who wrote it.
And so that's a little bit of good geek trivia because I love Ernie Klein. Ernest Klein is the author of Ready Player One, a book that I really enjoyed when it first came out. But this world that was created in Ready Player One was based upon people escaping our world that's kind of collapsing. It was set in the future and going to this place called Oasis, which was an online virtual reality where you could be anybody, you could become anything, and you had virtual money, and it was a world where you could just sort of escape from the dismal life that you were living. So, Jeremy, for us today, I would like for you to talk a little bit about where virtual reality is now and where it's going in the future. And then I would like for you, Tim, to talk about how virtual reality could potentially play into relationships moving forward in the future.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, I think anybody who's got their ear to the ground knows that Oculus is sort of like Palmer Luckey, who founded Oculus back in 2012, kind of had this idea of, he wanted to go out and buy the most cutting edge VR headset, and he realized it didn't exist. And so he started, he was an engineer or aspiring engineer and said, well, if it doesn't exist, how can I make it? And started tinkering and with, the basically mobile phone screens are so lightweight and so advanced. That was sort of the genesis of the Oculus, was something that you can put, and wear on your head that's not so heavy that it makes you fall over. And so he did a Kickstarter, and all of these legends in gaming like John Romero and John Carmack, guys that founded id Software, saw this and demoed it at QuakeCon like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And I'm like, this kid's got something. This is amazing. And so they all kind of came and backed his Kickstarter, and then it blew up from there. I think it was one of the most successful Kickstarters ever at that point. And then, as you know, several years later, Facebook bought Oculus, and they're on the first one was called the DK1, which is kind of like development speak for Development Kit 1, and they would send out these headsets to game designers and say, hey, here's the development kit, make something cool. And now, I think right now it's on DK3, and Facebook is doing some cool stuff. We're actually going to start working with Oculus in about a month. I can't really say anything about what it's about, but on promotional videos and stuff. But to answer your question, I think that virtual reality and augmented reality, and for the viewers out there, the difference in virtual reality is, so virtual reality is, you're covered and you're seeing something different than what's in front of you.
Right.
AR or augmented reality would be sort of like that's taken away and it's an overlay onto the world that you're in.
Like the Pokemon Go kind of universe.
Exactly. Think about Pokemon Go, but on your face kind of thing.
Snapchat filters.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
nice one, Tim.
I think it's going to get a lot more advanced than Snapchat filters and Pokemon Go. But I really do think that is the future of interactive entertainment, is AR and VR. And it's like people talk about whatever it is, Murphy or Moore's law, how technology advances and gets quicker and faster every 6 months or 2 weeks now. I do think that we'll look up in 10 years and everything will be virtual reality. I mean, I think that like Minority Report is like, that's happening.
Absolutely.
And the adoption rate of it, do you see at some point there being a tipping point for the adoption rate of those sorts of devices, or will it always be a certain segment of people that end up just sort of using it and become sort of a minor?
I mean, I think it's like with anything, the early adopters are people that have disposable income, which means in a global sense, people that live in the West. And so, there's a lot of countries that can't even get the lights on, much less have a VR headset in their living room. So I think the people in the West and people that have disposable income will be the people that adopt it first. But that aside, I think it's sort of like what Microsoft's goal was whenever the original Xbox came out, like 2004, 2005. They said, we want to own the living room. Like, we don't want to just be in people's offices anymore with Windows. We want to come in the living room, and the Xbox is a way for us to do that. And I think when VR and AR can can comfortably live in the living room. And I don't think that's necessarily happening right now. PlayStation does have their VR experience that works with PS4, which is really great. But again, it's like, once you buy everything, it's like $500 or $600. So I think when that barrier to entry, when it goes from a $500 or $600 price point to, a couple $100, and you don't have to have a really advanced setup in your living room, then that's when I think that, as you mentioned, the tipping point, when that'll happen. When it's cheap and it's easy to plug in your living room and anybody can do it, that's when it's going to really take off, I think.
It's good. Well, Pastor Robert Morris, my pastor, he's a hunter, and I liked what Tim said one time. He said, Pastor Robert is a pastor, but he's also a hunter. And you said, you're a pastor, but you're also a gamer. You like
Completely.
Nice.
You like to play games.
Yeah.
So
I'm a gamer who happens to pastor.
That's great stuff. So
gotta have something else to do.
That's why I liked you being a part of today's conversation. Is in that VR conversation. There's a world that we're living in that's going to rapidly progress.
Yeah.
And we're going to have couples that are going to be experiencing something new. Yeah. In a world where they can kind of go into their own worlds. Yep. And meet people, have conversations, experience things that can, one, become very addicting, but two, could also become extremely violating of the harmony within the relationship. So talk about just, we can get into the other game stuff, but just virtual reality, the future of that, where do you think there could be some danger zones with that?
As soon as you said that Oculus was purchased by Facebook, I was like, oh God, it's over. Right? You don't want to think completely negative, but when I think it's your dad who said that amongst 50% of the divorces filed, maybe 40% have the word Facebook in it. So if there's already been emotional connections that have been established just with people sliding into the DM, right? Now you're creating this virtual opportunity for me to be somewhere without ever leaving home. And so the potentiality for danger there and for disruption between authentic relationship is there. But with that being said, bring on the technology, right? Like there's some, that also means that we could have people having an online experience being in our worship services that would be completely different if they were just watching it on a screen. So there's always pros and cons, and I think there's a perspective that we need to have where we don't allow the negativity to outweigh the possibility of great exposure to the technology in a way that could be beneficial to the kingdom of God.
I think it's like you said, you got to take the good with the bad. It's like the internet. Look at how many great things have come from this podcast,
That's
Facebook
correct.
Live.
Yeah.
The internet's also brought pornography. It's a terrible, home-wrecking, devastating thing. So it's like, you have to kind of look at it holistically, and it's like gaming. It's like anything. It's sort of like in the wrong hands can be divisive, can be a lot of negative things. So it is sort of like you have to look at it holistically and see like relationships. Like my editor Kenny, he and his wife met playing World of Warcraft.
Wow.
They met playing the game, like had a relationship, met in real life, IRL.
Yeah.
And now have I think a 3 or 4 month old baby. So it's sort of like the spectrum can go.
That's absolutely
Right.
correct.
Jimmy always says technology's a great servant but a terrible master.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's kind of your perspective on it, how you let it rule you.
That's good. Yeah.
And some people are just introverts. They don't know how to relate with people in the real world. And so the online world gives them an opportunity to become a little bit more of themselves to that online space. So we're good with that. Hey, we're giving away some stuff today. We have a Video Games, the movie.
I know that cover.
DVD. We'll have Jeremy even sign this for you.
What?
If we ask your question on the podcast today, we're going to give you some merchandise. Merchandise sounds so official, but we have this. We also have Unlocked. You want to tell people about this?
Yeah, so Unlocked was kind of the follow-up to Video Games the Movie. So Video Games the Movie is a 90-minute kind of 30,000-foot view of gaming, basically from Pong to Xbox, and a lot of cultural stuff. So there's kind of geek celebrities in there like Will Wheaton, Chris Hardwick, Allison Hayslip, and then game designers like Nolan Bushnell, founder of Atari, and on and on and on. And then Unlocked here was a follow-up to that, sort of this is Sean Astin in the middle. He is the narrator of Video Games the Movie, and he and I kind of became buddies during that process. this sort of came out of some conversations that Sean and I had about what if we get some known faces, some celebrities, and kind of go boots on the ground, 60-minute style into gaming. Like, what does mocap for gaming look like? Let's go onto that stage. Or what does the E3 convention look like? Let's go there with Tom Arnold, and on and on and on. So this is 8 episodes, a lot of fun, educational, and this is the Blu-ray, but it's out also everywhere, Amazon, iTunes, and stuff too.
Good.
You can get this one signed.
Well, yes, you get it signed. So if you have somebody in your life that likes to play games, I know they'll enjoy these resources.
Yeah, and both very family friendly, from 5 to 50. Anybody can watch them.
Yeah, good. Good. No gaming on there. That's offensive.
No, everything's E for everyone.
Good. Okay. Well, I hope you're enjoying the podcast today. We are going to be coming back to you after this break. If you have questions, though, get them in, and we will be answering those at the end of the program today, and you can have an opportunity to win some stuff. Not just these, but we have some XO swag as well. We give away at every podcast because this is the XO podcast. So stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, everybody. We're here with Jeremy Sneed and Timm Ross. You're going to watch us do a video game challenge. Mario Brothers, the original. I don't know if you remember this box right here, but we grew up playing on this. So we're going to do a video game challenge, play Mario Brothers. The first one to get the longest through the game is the winner. On one man is the winner. Okay. And Jeremy's first.
There's your first turtle. See, there's 2 strategies. One is coins and one is speed. I like to kind of go for speed.
There's a little crevice there.
No! I did the first level.
Okay, this is where Jeremy died. I'm going to take it real slow. Oh, he won.
Oh! Barely.
Barely won. Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
Timm Ross is the winner.
Right past 3.
Welcome back to the XO Podcast. We're here helping you thrive in life and in love, and helping you have a relationship that hopefully is the relationship of your dreams. Every day we want to help you get better and better. So welcome back to the podcast. We're talking about video games today, and Facebook's joining us. Ask some questions. We want to put those in the queue and answer those in the last segment. You can win some great stuff if we ask your question on the podcast today. So Jeremy Sneed, Timm Ross, we're talking about podcasts. I'm talking about podcasts. We're talking about video games on the podcast.
We are technically talking about podcasts.
Talking on a podcast.
Yeah, about video games.
In a podcast,
yes.
On a podcast, about a podcast.
That's right.
And so this is good stuff. So we're talking a lot about what the world looks like in the future with virtual reality, augmented reality. And those are the first segment has a lot of good information about what is in store. But right now, I know that I have a PS4, and I grew up playing Nintendo and Nintendo 64 and all those things. I have many, many years of thumbs playing stuff, and I can honestly say I'm better at some of the gaming stuff than I am around the household, like even fixing a sink or something like that. I'm much better at technology things.
Which is much more useful.
Exactly.
I mean, right?
There was a Far Side. You remember the Far Side cartoon back in the day?
Yeah.
And it was these parents watching their kid play a video game, thinking in their head that in the future there would be a job, like a $90,000 a year job.
I know this one. Yes.
Playing Nintendo.
Yes.
And so
turns out there is.
So far, that's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So video games, gaming culture, that is exactly present day scenario for a lot of people. And I know in relationships, I was doing some research for the podcast. You talked about Kenny meeting his wife on World of Warcraft. Well, World of Warcraft has caused a lot of divorce as well, and some other games like that get so submersive that people don't know how to stop the game and begin their responsibilities in real life. And
it's easier to be yourself when you're not having to be just a face in a restaurant or introduce yourself to somebody.
Yeah.
It's addicting too. I mean, you want to, it's a high. It's like getting a hit off something. Whenever you're in a gaming mode and you get a kill or you get a coin or whatever it is, it just makes you feel like you're accomplishing something great, and you want to keep feeding that and building that virtual account. So Timm, talk a little bit about what you see. You're a pastor. Do you ever sort of see a ramification of gaming in the church world or in relationships that you're in, positive, negative, or anything like that?
Yeah, I think there's positive and negatives, right? I mean, to your point, where people are fragmented and they're living another life online that's not a part of their reality. Well, what is that? What that is a picture of is somebody being disintegrated from themselves, right? They're not an integrated person. Yeah. So I'm not like a pastor who has a dark side of gaming, right? Like integrated into all of who I am is the fact that I love God, I love theology, I also love video games, I also love Juliet, Nathan, and Noah. I pay my bills, I'm responsible, I pay taxes at the end of the year, right? It's an integrated whole. And so as a part of that, for me, I am a, by default, introvert, right? A lot of people don't believe that because when I walk outside, I can flick the extrovert on. So I function as an extrovert, but I'm really an introvert. So the way that I de-stress and the way that I come down is by playing video games. I need to be able to put some time into something that's inconsequential because I can't turn strategy off. I can't turn vision off. And so that I won't incessantly tinker and wind up messing around with staff and people and the Bible. Go shoot people in the face. And it's absolutely fantastic. And there is a release there, and there is an endorphin high, and all of that is true. There is an accelerated heartbeat when you are, you and your teammates are trying to, in PvP, knock down 4 other people on Ghost Recon Wildlands. Like, this is a real thing, right? But with all of that being said, at the end of it, I can go to bed. I don't even get online until after my kids have gone to bed, and I ask my wife, is there anything else she needs me to do? If she wants to watch a movie, hang out, that's fine. I get on the app, the PSN app, and I tell everybody, hey, I can't play tonight. But if she's good, between 11 and 2 a.m., I'm rocking. Yeah.
It's interesting too. What you're talking about now is, we're all grown men, adults, men, women, and play games. It wasn't always the case.
Right.
And if you go back to even like the Game Boy, which was the late 80s, that was the first system that they marketed towards adults because of Tetris. It was so addictive. It was so like this puzzle that our brains were meant to solve. And that has evolved into now. We've all grown up, like you said earlier, Brent, with Nintendo, with Super Nintendo. It's that release, and I think it can be healthy, and it is healthy. But like with all things, as we mentioned before, it's one of these, the internet, gaming, alcohol, all these things. It's like they can be good,
right,
or they can be bad.
That's correct.
All things in moderation.
All things in moderation, exactly.
Absolutely.
So you have to put all those things through the filter. And I've been somewhat of as you know, Brent, kind of a video game apologist the last 5 years. And by no means would I say that all the studies are wrong about video game addiction or things like that. But it's just sort of like I think a person that's predisposed to that is the same type of person that would be predisposed to maybe other things. If they
gambling, addiction.
Sure. And fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
This study that Brigham Young did a study on these couples where one spouse was a gamer. And something that they found was that it was couples that didn't go to bed at the same time that reported less marital satisfaction. And really it came down to when they argued less about the quantity of time played, but more about when it interfered, I think kind of to your point, what you were saying, when it interfered with their bedtime routine, with what they were going to do together, maybe what one spouse's expectations were about what they were going to do the rest of the night, or when they were going to go to bed, or what they were going to do. And it wasn't, he plays too much, or it was just, it interfered with my expectation of how this night was going to go.
That's really good because I've always received my wife's permission before I go into the room. And I mean, I'm a nerd. I got the headset. I got a special controller.
Talk a little bit about the Strike Force. What was it?
The Strike Pack. That's what I use.
Strike Pack.
Because it has the paddles on it, and I don't have to get a scuff. I wind up just...
So it's not like you can do 2 things at once. I mean, you're committed to that gaming experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have my Turtle Beach headphones, and I have all of my task force that I play with. If I'm going to play online and do PvP, that's who I roll with. My wife knows all of these gamer people that I've had, and it's turned into an evangelistic ground. You're talking about it could either be bad or good. Yeah. All these guys I game with, when I first start gaming with them, I'm just there to shoot people, right? But then you start building this camaraderie with them, and about after 2 months, that's kind of been my kind of synthesize how I've kind of, quantified this stuff. About 2 months in, they start asking something. Hey, so what do you do?
Yeah.
And then I tell them I'm a pastor, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I've been cussing in your ear for 2 months, bro. How come you never told me?" I'm like, "Well, bro, we're here to shoot people in the face." But they're like, "But you're a pastor, that's so cool." Then they ask all these questions. Well, I wind up praying for a lot of them. There's one guy that actually, he's about to get married. He wants me to officiate his wedding.
Oh, that's awesome.
Interesting.
And I said yes. I mean, how cool would it be to fly to a different state and perform the wedding of one of your gaming buddies?
that's
Who
great.
I've never even seen this guy in person.
Wow.
But we've built so I feel like it's an evangelistic field for me, and there's some people that are going to come to Jesus as a result of it. So I just think it's fantastic.
Well, there's console games and there's the online universe, and then there's phones, right? So phones have a ton of games on there. And ladies, if you're watching, I don't want to put all ladies in the box, but like Candy Crush and games like that are very addictive. I don't see a ton of men playing them. I see more women, but that's not necessarily putting them all in the same. I mean, guys who play Candy Crush, that's fine. I don't care.
You've covered all your bases.
We're not on Candy Crush.
But I was saying before the podcast started, when I'm on a plane and I'm talking and I'm around other executive types or people that are, traveling for business, there's a point in time in the flight where you're just brain dead, right? And you're just not wanting to read anything or you're not wanting to watch anything. And a lot of people play games, and I would say a lot of people play solitaire. I see a lot of people playing solitaire on their iPads or whatever. I feel I want to get past the point where I'm embarrassed. My kids on my phone and on my iPad have Subway Surfer.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about addicting, and my kids are pretty good at it, but I want to hide the iPad or my phone when I'm on the plane because I don't want somebody to see me playing Subway Surfer.
You think you should have graduated from that by now?
I think so.
Well, it's a generational thing, too, because I think that we grew up, when the ESRB was founded and when Mortal Kombat came out and the whole discussion of like, ooh, are games okay? Are they addictive? Are they a time waster? I think, when our generation gets into our 60s and 70s, the generations below us, there'll be no like video game shame. It'll just be like, oh, that's just part of life. It's been my life since I was a toddler, and there wasn't really that, cachet of like violence and. So I think it's because I think my sister's the same way. She tells me, she's got 3 boys and she's like, I worry about their screen time. Are they playing too much? And I'm like, yes, you should pay attention to that. But she's hyper aware of it because she's from our generation. We all grew up during that conversation about time and violence and
we all turned out okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm a pastor.
I'm a pastor's
positive
kid.
that playing GTA won't turn you into a criminal.
I went even farther than that. I kind of wanted to make movies about video games. I was like, okay, this is not enough just for it to be okay. Yeah. I want to tell the world.
Awesome. That's great.
Right.
That's great.
My kids play a game called Roblox. Are you familiar with that at all?
It's familiar.
It's like a Minecraft kind of game.
Yep.
And I would say the only danger there is, and we found this, is that there's other humans interacting with your kids online. And our daughter came to us, this is when she was 6 years old. She had downloaded the game and we didn't really know what it was at the time. And she brought the iPad to my wife, Stephanie, and she said, "Hey, Mommy, what's this word?" And there was some guy that was trying to get her to talk about private parts and pictures and stuff like that. And if I could make myself turn into some sort of like digital thing that could travel through the internet and choke that guy, I would. But there's danger zones out there for everyone. Yeah. And you talked about Facebook earlier and people that meet on Facebook and they develop these relationships, and it is a reason for a lot of divorces because there's something in our brain when we reconnect with somebody from our childhood that keeps the same feeling. And even if the person looks different, you still remember them exactly. The same way they were. So old flames or old friends, whatever it is, when you reconnect with them virtually, it's a different sort of high than others. But there's also predators out there. There's people out there that are trying to, intrude your life in a negative way. And so there's some danger zones out there as well.
I think just to chime in on that, I think with the App Store and when you're on PC, it is much more of a kind of wild west of uncurated, unmoderated. But when you're on a console like PlayStation or Xbox or Switch, those are a lot safer, I would say, just because they're more moderated and they're more curated. So that's just more of an FYI to your audience that if you're on the App Store or you're on a PC, that beware or be more over their shoulder than if they're on Xbox. They're not going to allow that if you got your parental controls. You know.
Yeah, Nintendo Switch. Actually, my boys thought they were doing so great. They're homeschooled. They're like, we must be doing great. Dad bought us a Nintendo Switch. Nice. But after talking with my wife, what I found is that they were on Wii, but we graduated them to the Switch. They were doing okay, but Switch had better controls and they had an app, so I can actually set on the app how much game time they have.
Yeah,
cool.
So whether it's 2 hours, 3 hours, and when that time is up, it'll send me a signal, and I can actually shut it down from my phone.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's good. Well, summing up this segment, we talked about a lot, but time investment. Make sure that if you're in a relationship, that you have a significant other, that they're okay with the time you're spending playing games. That's important. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where your priorities are out of whack. You're spending more time playing, anything, if it's on your phone, rather than spending quality time with your spouse. Quality time is still key to a relationship's health. And also, if you're escaping through games, or if you're finding yourself emotionally unhealthy and you're finding that games are meeting something, a need that God or your spouse isn't meeting, be honest with them. Talk to them about that, or go to a pastor or Tim Ross. Get on a PvP game with Tim Ross, and
get in my headset. I'll talk to you.
And find somebody you can talk to about it. Don't just continue to escape. There's people out there that you can talk to and help. And games aren't bad. They can be really awesome and good, but there are opportunities for them to intrude and make your life not as good as it should be. And so make sure you're open and honest with your spouse on that. Hey, next segment, we're going to be talking to you, Facebook, and answering some questions. And we'll be doing some giveaways as well. So stay tuned. Watch this clip from my dad, Jimmy Evans, and we'll be right back.
When I go into a business and I'm doing business with a person, and let's just say that I, order iced tea at a restaurant, and I say, hey, can I get some more tea? And they come and get my glass and give me some more tea, and they bring it back, and I say this. I'll say, thank you very much. And they'll go, no problem. I hate that. I don't care if it was a problem. I'm paying for you to have problems. If you had to go to China and get the tea, in Antarctica to get the ice, I'm all good with that. As long as you got back, I don't care about your problems. I mean, not that I don't like you as a human, but you're serving me. No problem. Oh, here's the right response. My pleasure. I tip bigger. If I get a no problem, I want my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much for getting me the tea. It was my pleasure. The best businesses and restaurants train their people to say, my pleasure. You just feel better. So, so you go to your spouse and you say, well, honey, I need this and this and this. And your spouse responds like this. Well, Barbara said her husband doesn't need that. Shaming, eye rolling, body language is rejection. If you don't serve your spouse with a good attitude, you're rejecting them. And so when you come to your spouse and you tell them what your needs are, and Karen would come to me and she would say, Karen and I serve each other all day long. Literally, we serve each other all day long, every day. We've been married for 44 years. We have a good marriage. And we serve each other. I mean, that's just what we do. But the way that Karen responds to me when I'm asking her to do something, the way that I respond to her, we don't do that. I'm happy. The number one reason for my life is to serve Jesus Christ. The number two reason in my life is to serve that woman right there. She's not a burden to me. And see, when you roll your eyes and shame and reject and judge and do all those things, what you're saying is, you're not that important to me. I've got something better to do than to sit here and take care of you. Really? Because when we got married, I thought that's what you wanted to do. I thought our vows said that we were going to love and cherish each other till death parted us. And now what I hear you saying is I'm a burden, and you think I'm strange.
Welcome back. We are talking about video games today. We have Jeremy Sneed and Timm Ross with us, as well as Caitlin Edwards. And we're talking about how to have gaming in your life and not let it wreck your life, especially your relationships. And so questions from Facebook are coming in, and we love to hear from you. Facebook, thanks so much for joining us today. We are going to be fielding these questions, and if we answer questions today on the podcast that you've submitted, we are going to send you some special stuff.
Some swag.
Jeremy is an award-winning television and film producer.
Hello.
He's produced.
I barely have time to be here.
I won awards.
I've won awards.
He's made 2 extremely successful projects. One's a movie called Video Games the Movie. Another one is a TV series called Unlocked, The World of Gaming.
Did you have to change your voice when you did that? Because you did.
Did I?
Yeah, you were like, unlocked.
Dig deep. I don't know. I don't have that sort of range.
Movie trailer voice. Which is appropriate because you're talking about movies.
Exactly.
Absolutely. This summer. Unlocked.
Yes.
Pretty good.
No, that was really good, actually. I
have a good movie
jealous
voice.
of your movie voice. Anyway, giveaways. Facebook, hello. We're going to be giving away some stuff. I've got some questions in here.
So many good questions.
I'll ask the first one. Caitlin, you can take over after that. Samantha. Hello, Samantha. How do you handle criticism of others telling you to get out to be more active, etc., or when people call you lazy because you're not interested in getting out because you like gaming?
Oh, this is a good one.
It is a good one.
Yeah.
Hit it.
Well, I think it's, I've been going to a lot of conventions for a lot of years, but, as most people know, San Diego Comic-Con is kind of the mothership of conventions, of comic conventions or geek nerd conventions. And they have all of these meetups. Some of them are officially sanctioned by Comic-Con, but a lot of them aren't. Just people that have been playing online together all year that live, in Minnesota and New York and LA, and they all kind of come together at Comic-Con to meet up and like, oh, hey, you're Joe123 or whatever the gamer tag is. And that's an extreme, sort of like from a television producer's brain example of sort of taking the game experience to IRL, in real life. So I think that that's something that you could tell people is that, that these people that I play games with, I know in real life and I meet in real life. And just because it seems that I'm sedentary here on the couch, maybe there's an equal amount of time in real life that I talk to these people that I play the game with, but by the nature of a game, you have to sit and be still. So it's a little bit of a misnomer.
Yeah. The way I've always explained it to people, what was her name? Patricia?
Her name is Samantha.
Oh, Samantha, my bad. Samantha is, I take the time to explain to people the way I'm wired. Mm-hmm. Right? There's this great scripture in the book of Proverbs that says, what all of you are getting, get an understanding. Mm-hmm. And the way I give people understanding is by letting them know, hey, I'm an introvert. And the way that I refresh is usually with time alone. Mm-hmm. And I'm really domesticated. Mm-hmm. Like if you waved a wand over me and performed some type of spell, I'd turn into a declawed house cat. Like that's who I am. Just show me where my litter box is and my milk bowl and my little fancy feast because I'm a little bougie. That's where I would be. Like I don't like leaving the house. And my wife is the complete opposite of me. She's an extrovert. She must get out of the house for no other reason than to just get out of the house. Mm-hmm. But I could literally stay in my house for 14 days, become vitamin D deficient, grow a very thick, nasty beard, and sit on the couch and just be surrounded by my family and my friends if they decided to come over. And I would shower back every 3 days. Mm-hmm. But I have to get out, right? But on the time that I have to myself, I want to spend that time inside. And it's not that I'm lazy, it's just that I'm different from you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So give them an understanding of it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Jessica asks, she says, my husband and I have been married 18 years. They were married at 18 years old. He isn't addicted to playing video games, but we don't agree on time spent on it. I don't want to be controlling, and he says he doesn't mind getting off, but he's gone for a lot for work, she says. She says he's an awesome husband and dad. I just want to know how to compromise so that we're both happy.
That's good. So I heard a lot in that, and here's what I heard the most. You miss him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You miss him. And I think you need to tell him that you miss him and take the gaming completely out of it. Because if what you're saying is attached to what he's doing, then if he thinks differently about it, he'll probably just be going, I don't see what the big deal is. You know, I'm here and I'm home and just playing my game, and I'll get off if you ask me to. I think a more direct conversation is telling him that you miss him and that you want to spend time with him. If he doesn't hear you after you say that, pop in a Jimmy Evans DVD and or get some counseling. But I think if you tell him that you miss him, I think he's smart enough to reprioritize.
Another option is sort of, I know this is probably used in counseling somewhere, is to sort of meet him on his grounds. There's a lot of examples of like the man meet her, on her grounds, like in her life. And even your dad's talked about like women are most attracted to men when they're doing housework, like doing the dishes or things like that. So if you're someone that just does not like playing games at all, maybe this is an option. But it could be an option where she gets involved in the games. Go get your own controller, learn about the game, create a character. You may like it, and then you're going to be right there next to him playing with him. And what I've seen a lot of times is people that don't understand the game or aren't interested in it. It's kind of like when you watch black and white movies. After 10 or 15 minutes, you don't even know it's black and white anymore. You're just into it.
Yeah.
And gaming can be similar. So that's also an option.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, diving in. Some women don't like to watch football or sports, and it's a great way because if your husband does like to watch sports, it's a great way to spend time with him, just enjoying it. And you never know, you may be like Caitlin, become a fantasy football expert by watching football with your husband and playing fantasy football with him.
That's great.
And so there's an opportunity there. I will say that with gaming, it's just like with anything else. If he was hunting or fishing or golfing or whatever it is, it's more about the intrusion, like Tim said, the intrusion on the time together. And so just talk it through. And he may have to give it up for a while to prove something to you. But I don't think I hear you saying there's an ultimatum there, but he's going to have to figure out the priority of coming home and spending time. I liked what Tim said too, which was, and that's the way it is in my household. I'm domesticated a little bit. I can't really get on with a good conscience and play games or whatever if I know that there's something going on with Stephanie and I. So I'm always setting the temperature, feeling the temperature in the room, going, hey, are you great? Are you okay? I can spend time with you. We can watch a cooking show or whatever it is. She knows that I enjoy going up there and decompressing. One of my good friends is David Holland, which is Caitlin's dad, and he's the same way. He recharges his battery at Barnes & Noble or someplace like that where he can just be in a book or learning by himself. That's what he told me one time. And same way with me, I recharge my battery by being sort of in a zone and playing games and that sort of thing, or even just being alone and being kind of an introvert, and that sort of thing's going to help. So just understanding who your husband is, what makes him tick, and then finding opportunities. What these guys said were great. I thought what Jeremy said was awesome because sometimes you can jump in and learn the game. You never know. You may become like a cosplay Capcom, or what's the place in San Diego?
He might
Comic-Con.
It might flip. He might say, "Hey, my wife's playing too many games now."
Samantha says, any recommendations on games for couples for the Xbox One? We're shifting gears here, guys, today.
Yeah.
Gosh, so many. I guess it depends on genre. It's driving games, RPG games, action games. For Xbox One specifically,
what are some good couples games?
Yeah. Well, actually, Sea of Thieves that just came out is a great game, single player and multiplayer. My friend Sean Astin actually did an ad for it where he's like, it's like a callback to One-Eyed Willie. Sea of Thieves is good. Rocket League, which you can get on Xbox One.
Is a lot of people love that.
Fun. Yeah, that's a great...
I stink at that game. Why do I stink so bad at that game?
I'm not good at it either. I've tried.
There's people playing that, and they're doing things with the cars that it seem impossible to me.
It's insane. Anyway. Yeah. That's a good party game. If you like to get really immersive into a story... well, no, that's for PlayStation. I was about to say The Last of Us. That's a great story game.
Wow.
And
pretty great.
As you and I have talked about on the Uncharted series, it's just absolutely spectacular. But those are both PlayStation exclusives. It's like an ad for PlayStation.
It is.
PS4 will be well worth the money.
Buy two.
Yeah.
It's true. Sidebar, your friend Sean Astin. Stranger Things 2 was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
He was great.
Yeah. Yeah, he sent me a signed poster a few weeks ago. That he said, spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen Stranger Things 2, season 2, he doesn't make it. Okay. I feel like there's a statute of limitations. If it's been a couple of months and you haven't watched it,
it's your fault.
It's been
6 months.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
So, yeah. Anyway, he signed a poster and said, if you were in those corridors with me, I would have made it for sure. He dies in the corridors. Sean Astin. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it was great. That whole series was great, but he was a great addition for last season. Okay.
Daniela has a question. She says, my mother disagrees with us playing video games all together as a family because she feels like we should decompress alone with our Bible or by watching a sermon online. When she says stuff like that, it makes me feel guilty for picking up the controller. We have our church, marriage ministry, and devotions together. I have my prayer time with the Lord by myself. So how can I explain to my mother that we're a gaming family and it brings us together and it's not a bad thing?
You probably can't.
Yeah, that's pretty extreme.
Mommy is from a different generation. She'll probably never get it. So stop talking to her about games. Then she'll stop bringing it up.
It's also like, we talk about this in the film, is sort of going back to the campfire. So, back to before there was theater or books or, it was just people around a campfire telling stories at the end of the day, and whoever the best storyteller was usually who told the story. And that's evolved into books and theater and movies and television, and now video games are the current campfire that at the end of the day you come home from work or school and you sit around the campfire. And I think if there's a way to get Video Games the Movie into their house for them to watch, then they'll see there's a whole segment. I'm being serious.
No, I'm so glad that you were here today.
Yeah.
Because I felt like my answer compared to yours was so blunt. I'm like, stop talking to her about it. You're like, there's a campfire. And I'm like, it is a campfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I've thought about this a little bit.
Yeah,
but
say what he says.
There's a whole segment of in the film, and the film is a little bit of a sort of like I said before, a 30,000-foot view of the industry and of the community and culture. So, if you can, I would just say if you could get the film in front of your mom to watch, it might be educational, about, because it's always, what's the saying? Ignorance breeds contempt. She just doesn't understand.
That's correct.
She doesn't understand the community or the culture of gaming. And if her eyes could be opened to that, then she might have a different appreciation for it.
Yeah.
Amanda has a question from Facebook. She said, how can gaming be positive in a marriage? Gaming seems to just take up time, and aren't video games very violent and have foul language? How could you set up a healthy gaming lifestyle that doesn't put negativity in you, cause you to curse or yell, get upset, throw your controller at the TV, etc., etc., etc.?
Wow, it sounds like you've only been exposed to people who play Call of Duty and they rage quit and they're quite mad and angry. There's a lot of games out there, a lot of positive games out there, a lot of thought-provoking, strategic games out there. And I just encourage you to just maybe do a little bit more research, because it sounds like you've only had a limited amount of exposure to the type of games that maybe someone in your house is playing. And like he said earlier, I just think there is a campfire experience, and there's a lot of camaraderie and a lot of bonding that happens around the video game now. We're just in that age and in that space. And so I just encourage you to take advantage of the opportunities and see the positivity and not just the negative.
Mm-hmm. And knowledge.
That's good.
Knowledge is power.
Yep.
Whether that comes from whether that comes from one of my films or something else. It's like, I go back to Comic-Con. You see all these relationships and communities of people that a lot come from gaming. So I think it's just learning something new about a different community that could enrich your life.
Can I just say, so I downloaded God of War.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't played it yet. My mother-in-law had foot surgery 2 weeks, and my gaming whole setup is upstairs, okay? And so she forbade me from starting that game until she was healed from her foot surgery, because she loves to watch me.
Watch it.
Really?
Game.
Yeah.
Every Uncharted game I ever played.
Which is like watching a movie.
Yeah, it's
It
just
is.
like some of them are so well produced. It is just like watching a movie. So I can't even start the game. So I had to go get Shadow of the Colossus, and I'm playing that with my boys at 9 and 7, so they love that game. But I can't start the other game because my mother-in-law. So I'm telling you, that, I mean, my mother-in-law, who is from a completely different generation, loves to watch me play these games, and it does bring a sense of camaraderie and bonding within the family unit. So find some games that are good for the family.
Yes.
Check the ratings, and go knock yourself out.
Yeah.
I see this question coming from Jean. She says, I have never played video games. How do I get started? And I want to answer that. There was a time I played games all growing up through college. And right after I got married, I was playing GoldenEye, James Bond, with some friends. And then when I moved to Dallas in 2000, I really took a break. I'm probably a 10 to 12 year break from playing games. I was just busy. It wasn't part of my like livelihood. I mean, my wife and I, we were just working all the time, and it just wasn't part of what I spent my time doing. But I wanted to get back into it. And when I kind of wanted to get back into it, it was intimidating for me, at least. Because you got all these people that have been playing games, Xbox, PS3 at the time. They played them all the time. And the games, I got on one. I think it was Call of Duty, one of the Call of Duties. And the multiplayer, there were people jumping in the air, spinning around, shooting people, and I was just getting obliterated. I just like, this is the worst feeling in the world.
Oh my goodness.
So I had to find games that I could, and one of them was Uncharted. There's story modes. There's game that you can play, like story modes. So find a console like PS4. I love the PS4. It's great. Really a lot of games on there. And there's games like, you can play Jeopardy on there. You can play Wheel of Fortune. You can play simple games like that. Rocket League's a good, fun family game you can play. Mm-hmm. It's a party game. My kids that are young love to play it. So find something that you love, first of all, a type, a genre of game that you love, but then find a story mode. Find something that's not going to be intimidating to you to get started, Gene. That will really help. Yeah. I said that was the last question. One more from Daniela. How do you set healthy boundaries with your husband and kids when it comes to video games? I don't feel like my son, who is 5, is old enough to play, but my husband feels otherwise. I love that question.
I love it too. I think it comes down to agreement. You know, my wife and I have to come into agreement on, and like I said earlier, my kids are homeschooled. So they'll ask to play video games, and I want to know, did mom okay it? And then I want to know from mom, hey, what time did you say? Well, they did okay today. They can do 90 minutes. Well, it won't be 91, right? So come together in unity so that there is an opportunity for that child to have some fun, but not at the expense of you all having unity and agreement in it.
It's good. This is the XO Podcast. We enjoyed being with you today. Thanks so much for joining us. Jeremy Sneed, tell everybody where they can find out more information about you.
My studio, Media Juice, all things Media Juice are at MediaJuice.com. And then these two projects, they're actually on MediaJuice.com, but VideoGamesTheMovie.com, you can get it on Blu-ray, DVD, iTunes, and then UnlockedTVShow.com. Same thing, Xbox, PlayStation, iTunes, Steam, but you can get it at VideoGamesTheMovie.com.
Please check that out. And Tim Ross, you can check him out, Embassy City Church.
Yep.
Go see him on the weekends. Talk to him about gaming and all that transpires.
My gamer tag is Timm and Jew. Tim, the letter N as in Nancy, J-U.
My gamer tag is just Media Juice.
Booyah.
Nice. I'm not going to tell you mine, so. Hey, please subscribe to the feed. If you like what you're listening to every week, please give us a rating on iTunes or any of your feeds that you're listening through. That really helps us in the rankings. We want people to learn about relationships, and we want them to build a successful relationship. So if you have friends or family that this could be useful, please share this, spread the word, like us, follow us. Thank you so much for watching and listening today. God bless you guys. Have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.